Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our call today in regards to childcare programming. My name is Victoria Rogers with the Greater Scranton Chamber of Commerce, and today we have Kelly Langan here to present for us. She is the Director of Children and Teens at United Neighborhood Centers of Northeastern Pennsylvania. I am recording this session, so if you miss anything or need to go back, or if anyone that you know missed it, it will be on our website afterwards. Kelly, thanks so much, and I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Victoria. I appreciate you guys having me today. So what I wanted to do today is put together a quick slideshow about how employees can support, or how employers can support their employees through childcare partnerships, or even very low energy, low time things that can really help their employees find quality childcare to help them be more reliable at work. I also noticed that we have some social service agencies here today. And so this is also a great opportunity to learn about supporting clients in getting quality childcare and getting funding for that. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to type in or use a little hand raise emoji.
Join the meeting.
Or I will also—
Stephanie Pendrak with Fidelity Bank. Join the meeting.
All right, we will go ahead and get started. So essentially what I want to do today is give you a little bit of information about how employers can offer information on site. So that's kind of the lowest time commitment, but big impact by helping families choose a quality childcare center. And we'll go through what that looks like, getting state funding for tuition. The next part that maybe will take a little bit more of staff time is assisting with the application process, providing the appropriate documentation, supporting employees during that waiting period, because the very beginning of establishing childcare can be a little bit more difficult than once it gets settled. So offering a flexible schedule. And then lastly, we're going to talk about different ways that employers can offer financial support if that's within the realm of possibility for them. So scholarships for families who maybe don't qualify for state funding, short-term support while waiting for state funding, and we'll talk about what that looks like, or even a longer-term partnership with a licensed child care center to help pay for part of or all of the weekly tuition for the employees. And then with this support, the employees are going to be more willing to accept new positions. I know we're all struggling to fill positions right now. So this can be one benefit that you can offer to potential employees. We hear from our clients that many residents aren't going back to work because they're concerned about childcare. That may change a little bit with school, but the school hours are only a certain portion of the day. And so we want to be able to support them outside of those school hours. Employees are also going to be more reliable for their scheduled hours if they have quality childcare. Some things that you could look into, and I'm going to show you how to do that, are a childcare center's hours, the holidays that they're closed, how often they close for snow closures and things like that, because we know that that affects the rate that your employees are showing up reliably to the job. Then we also want to look at the quality of the center. A quality center is more able to manage behaviors. And so we know that some families are consistently called out of work early because their child maybe has some behaviors that they're working through, and the center is unequipped and unable to handle those behaviors. And so the better quality center that you send a staff's child to, the less likely it is that they're going to be called out of work in order to go get their child from the center. And that's going to help out with keeping them reliable for their hours. So I'm going to go through each of those things and what they really would look like. So the first thing we're going to talk about is choosing a quality child care center. So Pennsylvania has a program called the Keystone Stars program. It's through the Office of Child Development and Early Learning. And it's a really simple program if you are just looking at, how can I determine what's a quality site? They have a 4-star rating system. So they can award 1 star, they can award 4 stars, or anything in between. A 4-star center is the best rating that a childcare center can get. And so if you find a center that's a 4-star center, you can be relatively assured that they have a curriculum that is going to support this child in whatever grade level they're in, whether it's pre-K all the way up to usually 8th or 9th grade. It looks at how the center supports the entire family and the community. And so that's one of those ways you can determine whether or not the employee is going to really have a good relationship with their center. So a 4-star center is going to really engage with the family. A 1-star center is going to be less likely to do that. It looks at staff qualifications. And so it looks at, are the teachers in the centers doing ongoing professional development? What kind of degrees do they have? Do they know what they're doing as they're working with these kids? This is one of those pieces that's really going to determine whether or not the center is able to handle some minor behaviors from the child while the child adjusts to childcare. And then it also looks at leadership and management and makes sure that they have inclusive policies. Again, this safeguards against suspending children for very small things, things like that. So it can offer more consistent childcare. So you really want to look at centers that have 3- and 4-star ratings. 4-star obviously is the best, and there are more and more sites across the area that are 4-star centers. Then another thing that we want to look at right now is those health and safety policies for COVID. We know that you want to keep your employees safe. We want to keep our kids safe, and making sure that those COVID policies and procedures are really locked down can help make sure that your employee doesn't have to, deal with a sick child or isn't bringing COVID into your site. The way that you can look up whether or not different childcare centers are awarded 1 through 4 stars is on the PA Compass website. So that's the same website that our clients go on to apply for SNAP or any other kind of public benefit. So that Compass website will show you every licensed child care center in the state, as well as how many stars it's been awarded. If you want to dig really deep, you can find out any infractions they've had at various times during their state inspection and what they've done to correct them. Minor infractions are pretty normal when they come in, but you can see what the plan is to, take care of those things and make them better. Any questions about the Keystone Stars rating that I can answer for you all? Maybe there's someone in the chat that I don't know. Yes, that's Victoria. There we go. All right. So we'll move on. Again, if any questions come up, please feel free to ask, and I'll also leave some room at the end. All right. The next thing is helping the client or the employee find funding for tuition. And this isn't funding that would be coming from you as an employer. This is funding that's available through the state and other means. So the first thing that they're going to want to look at is the Early Learning Resource Center. It's called the ELRC. If your client maybe has some older kids, they may call it CCIS. It gets a little bit confusing, but they're called the Early Learning Resource Center now. The ELRC is a really helpful way to find an appropriate child care center. And so if you're looking for an employee who has a 10-month-old, a lot of centers don't take 10-month-olds. And so you can call the ELRC or go on their website and contact them that way. And you can find out, hey, can you show me all the centers in the Scranton area that serve infants? And the ELRC will be able to give you a list of those centers. They'll be able to give you the ages of children, the hours that they're open, the stars rating. And so they can give you all of that information in one place. So they're a good kind of one-stop shop for finding an appropriate child care center. And this is one way that you can very easily assist your employees with finding appropriate child care without having to put in too much time with that employee one-on-one, because you can really just lead them to this website and that'll help them. They apply again through Compass, or they can go in person downtown in Scranton. It's right across the street from the marketplace. Another opportunity that offers partial funding at certain childcare sites is the United Way pre-K tax credit. Now this one, it's important to recognize that it's only for pre-K kids. So it's only 3- and 4-year-olds. The ELRC funds kids all the way up to age 13. This pre-K tax credit is just for those kids who have not entered school yet. But this is based on the child care center. So the child care center has to apply with the United Way to be approved for this. And so you would have to talk to each child care center to figure out if they have been approved for that funding source. That's why the Early Learning Resource Center is the best first stop in order to do this, because they cover all of the sites that are licensed in Pennsylvania. And then the last one I have listed here is the Head Start, Early Head Start funding, and that's through ACE and EPA, and they cover birth to 5 years. And so they're a really good spot for those infants, which is sometimes hard to find care for the really young ones. So they're a really good stop to talk with them about that. All of these different kinds of funding, you do need to qualify for them, and they all have different qualifications. The ELRC, it's 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. The United Way pre-K tax credit, they can be making a little bit more. That one's a little bit more inclusive of different kinds of income. And Head Start, Early Head Start, I actually don't know off the top of my head, but I think somebody here was supposed to be from ACE. So if you are here, if you could add to the chat or something to let us know what the poverty guidelines are there. But again, if you give the ELRC a call, they can help you with all of those kind of bits and pieces. The next thing that you can do, it takes a little bit more person power, is to actually assist with that application process. I have the ELRC's website here for Region 12. Region 12 covers mostly Lackawanna County. There are other regions of the ELRC. ELRC covers all of Pennsylvania. So if you're not in Region 12, you can very easily find the correct region. When you go to that website, for whatever reason, you have to then click on Childcare Works in order to get to that application page. So I included that there on the slide, just so you know exactly what to click on. And then here's the biggest thing that employers need to know. From my perspective, trying to support our clients through getting ELRC, is there's this employment verification form, and I've added a little kind of thumbnail of it for you. This employment verification form is required for them to be approved for funding through the ELRC. So instead of paying the entire copay each week, a family may only be responsible for anywhere between $5 and $120 a week for as many children as they have enrolled. The ELRC can be a huge help with that. But without this employment verification form, they can't get that funding. And so having your HR staff or your supervisors or whoever would be responsible for filling out this form, having them familiar with it and understanding the importance of getting it in quickly can really help your staff get childcare quicker, because the ELRC will give them funding quicker and they're going to be more able to afford that thing. So that employment verification form is one easy way that employers can really help the employees get that care. And then at the child care centers, there are a number of things that we need in order to make sure that we're meeting state guidelines and keeping the children safe. Some things that the employer likely wouldn't be involved in is maybe the physical, the immunization record. One thing is a phone number to be reached at work. It sounds simple, but I have a lot of families who cannot give me a straight answer on what phone number I should call if I need to reach them when they're at work. And so making sure that the employees have a very specific line, not just to them, maybe to their supervisor, or some way that that we're going to be able to get in contact with them should anything happen at the child care center that they need to know about. We also may need to verify their work hours and their work schedule. And so that's something that you can help them out with so that we can get their child enrolled quicker. Then the last thing is, I know very difficult sometimes to be flexible with hours, but in that first week of childcare, we may ask them to come in to do a tour and to work on paperwork with us. And so that might be a situation where they may need to leave work a half hour early in order to get to the center to do that tour and paperwork visit while the children are still at the center, which makes the child a lot more comfortable and makes them a lot more likely to, not have any major behaviors and feel a lot safer when they're in the center. So those are some easy things that employers can do to be helpful with that. Next, I'm going to get into the financial stuff. So I'm going to pause here, see if we have any questions or comments. I think we're in good shape. All right. So Financial support obviously is something that a lot of employees can use, and it's a difficult thing to talk about sometimes because we're all, trying to do our best to be financially responsible. So I've listed 3 different ways that employers can help financially support, and they're kind of 3 different levels. So there's a waiting list scholarship that could be offered. So when a family applies for the Early Learning Resource Center or the ELRC funding through the state, sometimes they can get it immediately. It just depends on what's going on at the ELRC. Sometimes there's a wait list of 3 months. I've seen it go as long as 6 months, but that's rare. Usually it's a few weeks that they might be on a waiting list. They are already approved. They just need to wait for funding to become available. And so if an employer were able to offer temporary support to families who have already applied for this ELRC funding, they would be able to start childcare sooner instead of waiting until that waiting list came up with their name. So that temporary support would be something that you would want to work with the childcare center and or the Early Learning Resource Center in order to make sure that the family has already completed their application and has been approved for funding. You can find out what their copay would be through the Early Learning Resource Center and potentially help to support kind of the difference in order for them to go to childcare sooner. There are other scholarship possibilities. These would be more permanent support, so a more robust financial support for the family. This could be for families who do not receive funding and don't qualify. So families who make even $1 over the threshold are often disqualified fully from these funding opportunities. And a lot of them struggle to be able to pay for childcare, especially if they have multiple children on site. And so if you were able to support them as an employee benefit of, we will offer $50 a week towards childcare for your child, and you can pay that directly to the childcare site, or you can pay that directly to the family if you get receipts from them. These are some ways that some employers have offered opportunities for their employees for that childcare benefit. And then the last and probably the biggest commitment would be a partnership with a licensed childcare center. It would be, again, more permanent support for these families and for the business itself, because there's a lot of relationship building that can go on. If I'm working with a business and they're sending me their employees' children and helping us with those, we have a lot more opportunities to say, hey, I see that your families are, they're picking up 15 minutes late every day because they're getting out, at 6 o'clock and we close at 6 o'clock. Would it be beneficial to you if we stayed open for another half hour? Like, let's have that conversation, because you have buy-in from us and we have buy-in from you. Making those kinds of decisions can be really difficult without knowing how many kids we're going to have. There are, state ratios we have to worry about as far as the number of adults in the building. And so if we don't know that a number of people are going to be using that extra half hour, it's not something that is very easy to jump into. But if we have an employer working with us who says, hey, if you could stay open another half hour, we can send you another 5 kids. It's something we're going to be a lot more willing to consider and able to kind of work that out. And so a partnership with the child care center can really be mutually beneficial. We can also potentially, any licensed child care center could potentially collaborate to determine holidays that they're closed. Maybe your business is closed on one holiday and we're not, and we're closed on another holiday and you're not. And so that's causing trouble with your employees who have children because they don't have anywhere to put their children on those holidays. That's something that can potentially be worked out amongst that partnership. So that's about financial support. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about how United Neighborhood Centers can help. So all of that other information applies to all licensed childcare centers. Of course, it includes our licensed childcare centers, but it applies to all of them. And so if there's one near you, that's something that you can be thinking about and talking about. United Neighborhood Centers has 3 4-star centers that are across Scranton. I have their addresses here and their phone numbers in case you wanted to give them a call. We do have the lowest tuition in the area. We offer wraparound services for our clients. And so if we have a client who comes in, we're not just supporting the child, we are supporting the family. So we have families who go over to our community services building and get help with finding more appropriate housing for them and their families. We have clients who come in and they talk about needing some mental health counseling for themselves. And so we're able to set them up with that. There are a lot of services that UNC is able to offer their childcare families that other childcare centers just can't offer because they're focused solely on the child. And we're able to focus on the full family. We only have 10 closed holidays throughout the year. A lot of centers will close that week between Christmas and New Year's. That puts a lot of parents in a difficult situation for how are they going to work while also having their kids at home? We don't do that. We close on Christmas Day, we close on New Year's Day, but beyond that, we're open for the children at those times. We also have a really low close rate for weather. This is something that we've worked with our families a lot on is some of our families can't miss work, even if there's a lot of snow on the ground. Whether they're working in a factory or they're working in healthcare, they need to be there. Their business isn't closing. And so we do our best to, utilize the staff who are nearby, who can get safely to the center in order to support those families who need to work. Similarly, when the COVID shutdown happened almost 2 years ago now, we were closed for one day. We applied for a waiver in order to serve essential employees, and we were able to open one day after that closure happened. And so we really are dedicated to serving the families who need to be at work. And so that's going to be a benefit to the employer as well as to the employee. We're currently open 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're in process of developing second shift childcare. And that's something I want you to think about. If that's something that your business could use, is a second shift childcare center in the area that offers quality care for your employees, please reach out to me because it's something we can talk about, that we can figure out how to partner on and make that an easy transition for your employees. We currently serve children who are aged 3 to 13, and we currently work with the Scranton and Riverside school districts. So that's a little bit about us and about how we can support you. Again, all of that other information about the Early Learning Resource Center or the ELRC, about Head Start and Early Head Start, that applies to everyone. So thanks for your time. I am absolutely here for questions, comments, and I have my email here in case you want to reach out with partnership opportunities.
Thank you, Kelly, so much. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? I know it's been I can't believe it'll almost be 2 years since the pandemic has hit. So I can only imagine all of the hoops that you had to go through to assist so many with healthcare, with daycares, and it's absolutely crazy. And I learned a lot today during this because I didn't realize that you offered, or the state even offered, this much stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot out there that people don't know about. A lot of people tend to think that UNC's childcare services are free. They are not, but we can absolutely assist families in getting the support that they need.
That's wonderful.
Kelly, this is Tony Rusnak. I'm from Commonwealth Charter Academy, and it is interesting hearing all the things that are going on. But a few qualifying questions. You mentioned the tuition, and I know there's all the other aid and everything else available. But without all that, what is it? Is it a daily tuition, and is there a certain contracted time they have to be there with you? Like you have to sign up for several months, or I say, do they have a drop-in day or a week or things like that? I'm just trying to get a bigger picture of how this kind of works.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are not a drop-in center. However, if a family only works on Mondays, they can fill out a contract where they're registering their child to only be there on Mondays, and then it would just be that daily rate for Mondays. And so we work on a contract basis, week to week. I'm responsible to send my child 4 days a week, and so I'm going to pay 4 days a week. That way we can staff appropriately and make sure that we have the right amount of people there to care for the children. But we also aren't locking a family into 5 days a week. We're not locking them into full-time care. If they want to be on a contract for just part-time care, So if they only, work half days and they work 5 days a week, we can have them on part-time care 5 days a week. And so we work on that contract with the family in the very beginning of the process, and we can change it at any time.
Okay, no, thanks. And you mentioned a daily rate. What is that daily rate?
So it depends on the age of the child and part-time or full-time, but it's between $28 and $31 a day.
Okay. And my other intriguing question is, you mentioned you work with the Scranton and Riverside school districts. Are they then your certified teachers? Or you mentioned earlier that you have like certified teachers. Are they the ones on site, or are they working virtually, if you will, with Scranton and Riverside? Just curious.
Okay, that's a great question, Tony, and I'm glad you asked it because I can clarify something. Our staff are not Scranton and Riverside School District staff. So what I mean is that most of our children attend Scranton and Riverside School District. So when our kids were doing virtual school, we were doing a lot of work supporting the kids with that Scranton and Riverside School District schedule, as well as that online learning. Our staff have various qualifications, from a child development credential all the way through teaching degrees. So they do vary. They are not necessarily certified teachers in the same way that the school district requires certified teachers, but they do have credentials according to state guidelines and beyond. Lisa, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, you kind of addressed it with Tony's question. I was going to ask you to say a word about childcare centers' role in furthering educational goals for school-age children and ability to assist, should schools close again for in-person learning.
Yeah. So we pivoted really quickly this year and made sure that we were able to support that online learning. We completely rehauled what our classrooms look like to be able to socially distance our kids while they're on their laptops doing work with their teachers in the school district. And we were able to support them that way. We made sure that they had dividers and headphones and things like that so that they were able to meet those goals. And when school is in session, we're not what people think of as childcare. We're not babysitting the kids before and after school. We have a curriculum that is approved by the state in order to help further those goals. And so they're not coming back out of school after 8 hours of school and doing math problems, but they are doing an approved curriculum that helps them kind of put those skills into use and kind of helps to solidify what they're learning in school.
That's really amazing. It really is. Any other questions or comments, concerns, ideas? I know Kelly and I were talking before this, and we were discussing companies and businesses, and even when you mentioned if someone works till 6 and you close at 6 and you just discuss things if it works for them. I just think that's amazing because not everybody does that. Not everybody adjusts their business or schedules to accommodate. So that's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, UNC's goal is to support the community and make sure that everyone in the community is able to thrive. And so if we have a family who continually has to leave work early and potentially is putting their job on the line, we want to work with them. We also don't want them to be paying a late fee every day. That's not good for anyone either. And so as long as we know that we can, reasonably support it with the support of maybe the business, making sure that we have enough kids to support that, we absolutely are willing to have those conversations. We want to have those conversations.
We all know that it's been added stress these past 2 years. So that has to be an amazing feeling for parents to know they have options like that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Anyone else before we conclude today?
No, I would just like, Kelly, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more if it's right after this, or we can stay here after the recording, or I can give you a call.
Any of that sounds great to me.
Or as Bree likes to know, we like to do a lunch or brunch, but we can start with a call.
Okay, that sounds good, Tony.
Thanks, Kel.
That's great. Yeah, and if anybody, like Kelly says, needs to reach out, her email is right here. Jot it down or take a picture. And I just want to thank Kelly and Lisa's on here as well. And thank you so much to United Neighborhood I can't talk today centers for the presentation. I think it's been very educational for many of us. And anyone, again, that missed it it is recorded and will be on our website. So everyone have a wonderful day, stay safe, and thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.